So this is David taking black and Eva taking white. All looks okay so far. I would say this move is maybe a little bit questionable at f15. And the reason why is that white should really be targeting a move at like h17. Because this is if black protects on top, white's going to connect underneath. So black's going to have to try to play at g18 to try to prevent the connection here. And now white can cause a little bit of trouble for this black group. It's not something that would be played immediately, but when you play at f15, you're taking away the agi, because now when you play here, now black can attach on top, and unfortunately this connection no longer works.
Okay.
So a small difference, but this stone on the outside, it doesn't, it's too much agi keshi.
Okay.
And so black's gonna be really happy to play here. And you still have open this weakness, that you're gonna have to be mindful of.
Yeah, had white not done the peep, and not that I would play it correctly, I've done a lot of exercises with the invasion at h17. How white can force a ko, and all the other various. There's about 6 variations, lectures and problem sets I've been doing.
Yeah.
But again, not saying I would play them correctly in a real game.
Yeah, it's more of, we don't need to go into the specifics of it, but it's more of that's the idea you should be trying to get at, trying to take away the base at some point, as opposed to forcing an exchange that may not be that profitable for you. If you need this for a ladder breaker later on or something like that, then sure. But at this stage, it's really hard to tell.
Okay.
I think a concept that's really helpful is not every exchange is a good exchange. But if you just keep that mantra as you're playing, just like make sure, like, what am I getting from this and what am I losing? And if you can say, okay, this thing that I'm getting is more than what I'm losing, then it's a good exchange. But
so, question for you on this.
Yeah.
I filled, but I thought briefly of not filling. If I took a move elsewhere, and then if she cut, I went G17.
Yeah, but I will say that, so because you have to answer afterwards, this move is quite large, because it does prevent that that invasion we talked about over here.
Yeah, but it would do the difference between the two is it's still her sente, but I got that move on the bottom right corner in your example.
Yes, but she's now protected this big weakness over here.
Okay.
So that big weakness that we were talking about at C15 is now completely gone.
Okay.
And she's also getting territory on the outside. Yeah.
Okay.
So and you also lost territory, right? You had to come back and play here. If you were to do anything here, if you were to do anything but answer, I would play here.
Okay.
But I think in this particular case, just answering is fine, because again, with white doesn't usually play this D14 move. Usually white will play at C14 to prevent that cut that we were talking about. And so, the typical variation is something like this. And because white's playing here, you're even more inclined to keep open that aji, right? So you're even more inclined to connect here.
That's the two things I try to ask myself, which I think are appropriate questions at my level. When someone peeps, do I need to respond? And when someone Ataris, do I need to protect?
Sure.
Because it's not always true that but my judgment is not complete. You can see she likes peeps.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very modern AI Joseki, perfectly fine. Yep, all this is fine. So I won't go into the specifics of it, because I think I covered a little bit, but usually you don't see D2 anymore. More often than not, you'll see the 3-3 invasion. D2 is just generally neither side really wants to play the 3-3, because it makes both stones inefficient. So I won't go into the specifics. I did it in the first session, but just kind of know that D2 is maybe a little bit slack nowadays.
Yeah, but she made the response that made it okay.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it okay.
I understand. Yeah.
But all this is fine. No real concerns here. Um, this might be one of those instances where I would be inclined to do an iron pillar as black.
Okay,
White would be presumably would pincer would extend out, and then black can get a nice pincer. And something like this seems like a really nice variation for black.
Yeah.
Very solid corner, protects the territory on the outside over here, and keeps open some weaknesses here. It's certainly hard to fault this pincer here, but it is a little uncomfortable because it's hard to tell which direction you want to play.
Yeah.
You know, if you play this way, then this stone at L17 seems a little bit questionable, right? So you don't necessarily want to play that way. But if you play this way,
I'm like one line too close.
if you play this way, there's still some weaknesses here. And you're also not necessarily, you're making this gigantic wall, but because white has a stone over a D14 and F15,
Yeah.
the wall is a little bit less efficient than it could be. So it's tough to say. So usually you'll play the iron pillar when you have a lot of strength on this side, and I think in this case you do have a good amount of strength in this area, and so it would be hard for white to get a some sort of a direct invasion here, and that's usually why we wouldn't play the iron pillar. But because of this formation here, especially after white has peeped here, I
Yes,
think
I
this
was
could be
thinking
playable.
that. Yeah.
Probably a little small here, Eva. I think because you have the option of always playing at L3 later on,
Mhm.
or R3. I wouldn't feel the need to play either right now.
Okay,
If I were white, I would probably be focusing on trying to reduce or get some sort of maybe an attack on this group, especially because you have this move over here. You can be a little aggressive in how you attack. Or you can, also take a large point over here too. Either one of these is totally fine.
Mhm.
But I would be inclined to kind of invade here or protect here, or play a light move over here to reduce how much black's going to get.
Okay,
But again, just because you can play it either side, it's hard to tell whether R3 is going to be more valuable or L3 is going to be more valuable,
Yeah.
and you can kind of choose later on which one you want to play.
okay.
Yeah, especially after black's pincer here, this is a little bit painful. I think if I were white, I would counter pincer. Black might play here, something like this might happen, and you can kind of get a nice attack on this group. I think by playing here, you make it too easy for black to get out. And you still have a weakness at C5. Your territory has been greatly reduced, and you're not using your thickness that you have over here effectively. And the nice thing about this move too is it protects against this cut. All right, so after black plays here, boom, boom, boom. Now these two stones are dead.
Okay,
So having this extra move on this side over here is going to be really helpful. If you don't have that extra move on the side, instead you play something like this, and you jump out, right? So say this is the game. Now this cut becomes a little bit more effective than it was a minute ago, because it has that extra stone over here as well.
Yeah.
And certainly if black ever gets a move over here, obviously that cut turns on immediately.
Yeah.
So I think here, David, you lost a good chance. I definitely would kick up here. Even though it seems slow, it does keep a lot of pressure on this group over here. It makes a move at C2 like very, very painful. Very painful for this white group. So I definitely would kick here. And even if white, comes back and plays over here, white doesn't have a great attack on these two stones yet. And black can always jump out and put some pressure on this group. And there are still some weaknesses in this area as well. Something like this could be annoying. So you don't want to let white get this move on the outside, because it's going to put more pressure on this group. I see the value of this C11 move, especially in combination with this. But at a certain point, you have to be mindful of what you're giving up. And I think that allowing white this move on the D8 side is going to be pretty painful. This is just kind of the wrong wrong shape move. Again, you really want to be focusing on that C15 move. This allows black a small base here, but allows white to protect the corner.
I need to explore the I didn't know the C15 cut.
Yeah,
So, I need to just explore that on my own.
I didn't know
Yeah,
it
that,
either.
that makes sense. You gave a good show about it, so I
Yeah.
think.
No reason to play B15 over B15 over B14. I think B14 is just better. You know, you make more territory this way. You're keeping up a little bit of pressure on this group. You know, if you play here now, you know, there's more Aji left over in this group as well. So no reason to play at B15
Okay.
as opposed to just blocking at B14.
Okay.
So again, when you see here, you played both L3 and R3, right? But if you
Yeah.
had one already, you wouldn't necessarily want to play the other. The value of them becomes a lot smaller when you're already alive. And you know, thinking about this, right? You're already alive here, right? So this is just a territory move because this group is also not that weak. So you've really only gained about 6 or 8 points. But realistically, what you should be focusing on is something in this area.
Yeah.
Or something in this area. So this is fine. This is a good move.
That was something that, as I was thinking about it, I know you don't normally play like a pre-peeped jump, but as I read it out, it seemed like that worked. So you're saying that?
Yeah,
wasn't
I think
wrong.
it's fine. I think it's
Okay.
fine. I probably would have played some sort of large knights move or something, but that's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
You could have also played here if you really wanted to, and just like try to capture it on a larger scale. Like there's a bunch of things you can do here. But this is perfectly fine. This is fine. Any one of them is okay.
Okay.
I don't know if this is the focus of my group yet. I might be more inclined to. I know it's tough. It's hard to figure out a good way to respond here, and I'm not sure if there really is any. Maybe black should be playing here. It's to prevent something like this from happening. Black should try to get a move out over here, because that's really the focus for me right now, is this kind of R10 area, because it allows white to connect back up. It will destroy black's shape here. Anything else on the board I would say is questionable, and probably, you know, even though S5 is obviously a large move, it does make this invasion that much harder, right? Now it's not clear who's attacking who. Yeah, and so now black has this really strong territory over here, or thickness over here, and is going to be attacking these white stones. But imagine if you didn't play this exchange, instead you just play here directly. If the same thing happened, yeah, black plays like this, there's a lot more, you know, let's say something like this. There's a lot more wiggle room for white to make eye space. And again, no reason not to block here. It's totally fine. You're going to lose Sente no matter what. You might as well get more points out of it. And there's still, you know, you also get to keep a couple of endgame points out here. Right? If you play here, this is endgame, an extra endgame move for white, right? If you play here, you know, white's never going to be able to play here because of the shortage of liberties. So you're actually going to get that extra endgame at T5 as well. So it's both more points now and endgame later. This is effectively dummy. If you're gonna play anything, I would probably just jump, or play here. You know, this has a lot worse endgame for you. So if you really want to do something here, play here probably.
Okay. I think I was wondering whether the threatened cut gave me a way of connecting through back to my left side.
This cut at B4 or
Yeah.
C4.
Unless white defended, and if white defended,
presumably white would play something like this, right?
okay.
And now there's no cut, right? Because white can just play like this. Oops, excuse me. Yeah, there's no cut. There's also no cut here anyway, right? Because
Okay.
even if white just plays like, oops, excuse me, white can play like this, and there's still no cut.
Okay,
The reason why white would play here is because you don't want to let black get this move, make some better eye shape, and you still have to come back and protect, right? And it also allows white to get a little bit of outward influence over here too. And of course targets this weakness at G2. So if black plays elsewhere, it's going to be kind of annoying fight for black. So this move keeps that pressure of the G2 stone as well. But if you play here, this G2 thing doesn't really become an issue.
okay.
Again, it's not a small move, but you want to keep open that G2 weakness. And so if you have this available to you, it can kind of help out later. And obviously if black plays away, you can play the G2 move now. This is, even though it's a big endgame move, it's kind of evacasey right now. And there's still so many points left on the board. Even just a move like S12 is still quite large, right? So let's say black plays here. This is still quite a large change, exchange of territory, and of course you can have exchanges like this as well. So I think we're focusing on kind of small potatoes right now, and we need to still be focusing on these larger unclaimed parts of the board.
Yeah.
So we'll do a few more moves and then switch to the next game. Maybe this tiger's mouth is a little slow here. Because black is so strong here, it's going to be a little difficult for white to really invade too well. I guess the kind of the move you're afraid of is like maybe the clamp. But in this particular situation, it's kind of hard to really get a good result in the clamp because you have all this strength over here. So it's something you can consider, but not that big a deal. And so kind of the worst that's going to happen is maybe something like this. But think about it this way: you're losing Sente here, and so if you're worried about the clamp, imagine just protecting over here, right? And expanding your area. That'll make the clamp much less effective too. Oh, this is I see. I guess you're trying to do here. I think this is a larger move because it's also putting pressure on these stones over here. And so I think that the timing of this E4 move is kind of questionable after white has played here. I think black has to block or do something here. But even still, it's a little painful. Maybe black just extends here, something like this. But again, if you play here, and you're saying, okay, well, this is Sente, I can come back and play here later on. White plays here, black plays here, black connects, boom, boom. This exchange is not that many points for black, but this exchange is a lot more points for white. So just being mindful of, even though this was Sente on most regards, it's certainly not as Sente as this move was. We can make Go terms, adjectives and nouns and verbs, right? That's how that works.
I definitely, I get the idea that there are things that are more Sente than others.
Yeah, and here too, right? Like this is also not that large exchange, and white very rightly came here, and I think this might have been the turning point of the game. I think up until this point it was probably pretty close, with maybe a slight advantage to black even. But after white has claimed this territory and now gets to attack this group, I would be hard pressed to think that white's going to lose.
And in a sense, that should have been obvious that the right side was important because it was the biggest unclearly claimed area.
Yeah. I think if white just jumps here, this is enough, right? Because even if black comes out and tries to live here, even just getting this territory on the right side, that should be enough to win. And of course, black still needs to answer here, and then white can kind of play light reductions to make this not huge. Because this is a solid 50, 60 points, 70, 75, 80, 80-ish points for white. And black's only territory is maybe 10 points here, 5 points here. So black has to make about 65 points here, which is not that easy. And that's not counting Comey as well. So let me ask this because I want to be mindful of time. Do we have any more questions on this game? Otherwise, I'll jump to the next one.
I think I'm fine. That was helpful.
Me too.